My name is Rashida Thornton, and I am the Assistant Director for the Graduate Admissions Program, and I work with the business programs, and one of the business programs that I work with is a Master's in Cybersecurity. So we're going to be talking about that program today and going over some key aspects as far as highlights for this program. So without further ado, let's get started. Why, at a glance, come to Bay Path University? Well, Bay Path University started in 1897. We are a private institution. The Long Meadow campus, where I'm located and Professor O'Brien is actually in Long Meadow. That campus is traditional, so we are still all female oriented on campus. We have 4 miles from the Long Meadow campus, we have the East Long Meadow campus. For the grad program and undergrad program, we do have co-ed online. So you are able to take all of your classes online for the master's program. Currently, we have over 3,000 students attending the university, whether you're online or traditional. As far as our students that have graduated and gone on, a lot of our students have opened doors for us, and they love our students here at Bay Path. So we have over 17,000 worldwide alumni that have been to Bay Path, gone on, and have had successful futures in a lot of the stuff that they do. We are regionally accredited, so you will not have to worry about that, especially if you're looking to go for like a doctorate or something like that, right? Professor O'Brien, you're looking at it, it would be the biggest thing is being able to transfer some of those credits for yourself if you look to do something. That is definitely something you always look forward to in a university, and we definitely have that, so you definitely are on the right track. Today, you guys will be meeting Professor Sean O'Brien, and he brings a lot to the table. So we're going to go into that. And I bring him up because when students look at Bay Path, they're awesome. The staff are awesome that work with them, but our faculty bring a lot to the table. They are in the industry, so they're able to give you the present education as far as knowledge and different skill sets that you'll need within the program. So you'll definitely have that. You have flexibility and accessibility when it comes to using the portals and also with getting your work done. And we'll go into that deeper as we go through this. Whether you're online or locally, you can always attend different community events that we have going on. So for instance, we have the Cyber Summit coming up this Friday, which is going to be phenomenal. So we have an annual Cyber Summit, and that's going to be awesome. So you can definitely check that out virtually or online. So let's move on. And I will be handing this over to Professor Sean O'Brien. Thank you for being with us today. It is an honor to work with you, and I look forward to hearing some wonderful things.
Really happy to be here. Thank you, Rashida. I'm just so psyched to be able to present here. Rashida, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the share screen. It acted a little weird. Do you mind just walking through the slides? I'm going to ask Rashida very kindly to be my assistant today.
Gotcha.
And that's how we back each other up here at Bay Path.
Mm-hmm.
But as she said, you know, I have a long history in industry. My name, she said, is Sean O'Brien. I am the director of the Cybersecurity and Computer Science programs. That includes the undergrad and the MS in Cybersecurity, which is what we'll be talking about here today. I'm also an associate research scholar at Yale Law School. I founded something there called Yale Privacy Lab. I've got approximately, I don't know, I'm getting a little gray, 2 decades-ish in the tech industry. And I've been working in cybersecurity for approximately half of that. So yeah, I've done a lot of cool things, and this has taken me in some great places. Next slide, please. So why get into cybersecurity? Well, It is the most interesting area of computer science, IT, technology, in my opinion, of course. But I think you can see for yourself, and the reason you're probably here, it's very, there's a wide variety of places that you can go with it. Listed here are just some of the places that our curriculum goes. We focus, for example, on digital forensics and incident response. That means, you know, for example, digging through files and finding evidence for investigations, or potentially logs on a machine that's been attacked and trying to figure out where the attacker is coming from and how to mitigate future attacks, that sort of thing. We also do, you know, the governance and auditing, the risk modeling, threat assessment, all of that managerial stuff. Now, it doesn't sound that exciting, but I'll tell you, if you're in the middle of a data breach, or if you're in the middle of protecting from, you know, a worldwide event, it will get exciting pretty quickly. This past month, for example, we've had a number of attacks on Amazon AWS and Azure and all this cloud computing infrastructure. And that just really highlights how important these aspects actually are, and how important careers in cybersecurity will continue to be. In our program, of course, there's a little bit of coding. So if you want to focus on that, you can. I want to emphasize that we are not like a technical, like boot camp style. You're going in, you're doing a ton of, you know, programming. But of course, there are these elements in any computer science adjacent field, I guess I would say. And if you're interested in that aspect, run with it, right? And we like to create that environment for you, but generally speaking, you don't have to be an expert in any of that to get in or to thrive here. And then cyber defense, cyber crime investigations. This is an area that I certainly think we've been really on the forefront of at BayPath, and I want to try to beef up over the next few years even more. Everything we do is online. The amount of evidence that's out there is just incredible. And of course, where criminal investigations are involved, where the legal system is involved, even in the civil area, you know, that's going to be increasingly an important area. Next slide, please. Okay, so program structure. 10 courses or 30 credits, 6 core courses, okay? 3 electives, right? So those core courses are foundations of cybersecurity, you know, obviously the base level stuff that you need to know across different parts of the cyber industry. You know, how do you do threat modeling? You know, what does confidentiality actually mean? What's information assurance? Those kinds of concepts are going to be in the core curriculum. And then in the elective area, that's where you can do things like mobile forensic analysis, you know, those sorts of specialized kind of you know, not niche, but areas that you would have a specialist sort of dig into if you want to look at smartphones or malware and that kind of stuff. And then you have your capstone project, right? Every program, every master's program obviously should have a capstone project. Ours are very interesting and very cool. We like to push boundaries with this and make sure that folks are focusing on really cutting edge and emerging threats. So for example, student last term focused on botnets for the capstone project, right? So these are programs that are running all the time on the internet, wreaking all kinds of havoc, and are very much at the front of what goes on day to day with incident response. And having someone in the program who's looking at that in a live environment is such a cool thing. I want to emphasize here too that we have access to a multitude of tools, lots of simulated environments, lab environments. We can do real world cyber attacks, but we can do them in a safe way. So that's awesome stuff that you're not going to find too many other places, and something that we really, really want to bring to the table for everybody. We have 4 starts per year, so that's January, May, September, and October. So we have basically a fall term 1, fall term 2, spring term 1, spring term 2. Okay, and then course delivery 100% online. Now the courses in general, I guess next slide, please, Krishna. The courses in general are asynchronous online. So we have some courses that have synchronous sessions. We make sure our instructors are very available for you as you know you need them. And where we need to, you know, have a video meeting, have a quick chat, I always make sure I take a very hands-on role with students and get in there and explain anything I need to explain to them, or we just talk through scenarios and things like that. So Asynchronous online at your own pace, but also your instructors are there when you need them. So in that way, we'd like to tailor the studies to you. The field's evolving constantly, right? It's hard to keep up even for me, and I'm very much steeped in this stuff, right? But the bottom line is cybersecurity is not going anywhere. Even when there's tons of controls, when there's tons of defenses and so on, there's always going to be new risks. Listed here, we're talking about Internet of Things devices. That's an area that I actually kind of specialize in. These are all the computers that are around us all the time that create vulnerabilities in our world, right? They may do some very cool things that are very useful, but if somebody takes over your Ring doorbell, it's not the coolest thing in the world, right? And these kinds of things are happening in the wild, pretty frequently. So cybersecurity is not going anywhere. If anything, the field is booming, and artificial intelligence is introducing a new level of risk as well as new tools we can use to defend. Next slide, please. So just to reinforce that concept, there's tons of job security in cybersecurity. It is the most burgeoning field, perhaps after AI in the last 2 years. But as I said, there's sort of a correlation there between artificial intelligence work and the work we do in cybersecurity, right? You'll see here that for at least the last decade, we've been projecting huge amounts of growth, and we've seen that actually play out, that amount of growth. There are, at any one time, year to year, approximately 500,000 current job openings in the US. Next slide. And just to reinforce that for you, here's a current map. This is from today. I pulled this. This is CyberSeek has a great rundown of current job listings. It's about 500,000 openings here. You'll see the metro areas that are sort of like darkened on this map, and you'll see the northeast corner there, Massachusetts, the rest of New England. We have tons of jobs in this area of the US as well. But of course, our programs are catered to the entire US, and even folks, we have some international students. So there's opportunities everywhere. The employed workforce is huge, and even in this job market, which, by the way, we're going to have a career panel about at our Cyber Summit on Friday. But even in this job market, which can be really challenging, this is one of the fields which I think is one of the most burgeoning. Next slide. So just for an idea of the sort of top cybersecurity jobs, I think I went over, we have technical stuff, then we have non-technical stuff, then we have like real managerial stuff, which is sort of oversight of entire programs. Obviously, if you're a chief information security officer, a CISO, or a chief security officer, CSO, those are going to be the big bucks, right? Also the big responsibilities, something I always like to hammer home. And we have cybersecurity engineers. This is sort of the entry-level positions, right? These might be penetration testers or working in like a security operations center, looking at incidents and responding to them. And then you have some other jobs which are sort of in the middle of that. You might be working directly on building apps. If you're into computer programming, that's for you. You might be managing a team of penetration testers, right? Red team, blue team, we talk about. Or you might be designing systems and policies. That would be the cybersecurity architect position. Next slide. All of these options are available, right? Systems we use have to be secured. You can be into cryptography and encryption. I am a little bit, but I don't spend my day-to-day just digging into math. I like looking at incidents, right? I like looking at malware, right? So you see the malware analyzer here. Penetration tester, so that's testing systems to see how strong they are. Network security, right? Seeing what's actually coming across the pipe, coming across our Wi-Fi networks, and locking them down as best as you can. And something we've really been looking at again, which is a sort of re-emerging problem every few years, cloud security. We're seeing a lot of issues in cloud security recently, and some of that's introduced by artificial intelligence and sort of the interconnectedness of all of our systems now. Next slide. So each course we have has set learning objectives, but we have an overarching, obviously, set of objectives for the program as well. We need to make sure that individuals can respond to incidents, right? Generally speaking, the types of jobs you're in, whether it's penetration testing or whether it's malware, whatever, you need to understand an incident response plan, right? You need to understand what it means to be cool under pressure. So that kind of stuff we definitely reinforce. Digital forensics is a big deal, even though it's sort of a little bit of a separate field. Looking at evidence, preserving evidence, right, which is the first step, and making sure that it's available to folks who need to use it in investigations. And those might be just inside of your organization, or they might be inside a courtroom, who knows, depends on the situation. Organizational culture, of course, it's a big deal, making sure all stakeholders are involved, right? When you're dealing with cybersecurity, things can move pretty fast, and you want to make sure that you're not ignoring some group of folks in your org who may be the ones who are most affected, right, by the decisions you're making. And then the legal and regulatory requirements, these are constantly coming down the pike. This is something I've got a lot of experience with personally, especially around privacy and privacy law. You're seeing more and more requirements on organizations for making sure that they are safeguarding records, not just the traditional data breach stuff, but also having the controls, the actual technical controls, so that there isn't a breach. Those requirements are getting stronger and stronger. That's an area that will keep growing. Okay, Rashida, next slide. All this is online. All this is in the Canvas system, which some of you might be familiar with, but we've got a beautiful learning management system. We really pack out the curriculum. I've spent the better part of this morning working on the curriculum for a class, and I always make sure we're going in and refreshing stuff. So we really do take a lot of care to make sure that pedagogically this makes sense, to make sure that the discussion forums and the ways that you can interact with not only your professors, but your peers, all of that stuff is there. You can access that pretty much anywhere. And of course, we have built-in video just like this, and a great online support team. So yeah, with that, Rashida, I think I'll kick it back to you. Thank you all, and I hope to see you online.
Yes, so typically a grad student coming in will ask questions. Well, how do I pay for this? How do I do stuff? We have a phenomenal student financial aid services. So we have people on campus that can definitely work with you. You'll be able to meet with them, whether it's by phone, email, or in person. So if you want to do a video call, you can actually do that online as well. The grad students, we have info sessions that are there to help you. And typically we have once a month, the first Wednesday of each month, where you guys can go in and learn how to pay for grad school. We have financial aid Fridays, so FAFSA Fridays. This helps you to fill out your application when it comes to financial aid. Typically, a student going into the grad program, if they're using FAFSA, they typically will use what we call the unsubsidized and subsidized Stafford loan, if it's available for you. You typically get up to, in a school year, $20,500. Yes, stuff is changing, but our financial aid department is working to make sure that we have stuff in line for our students going through it. So that would be for more details in it, you would definitely have to touch base with them to find out that information. So we have put their contact information, email them directly, and they'll be able to give you more in-depth information about the financial aid system here at Bay Path University and how it will align with you in the grad school. So when we're looking at the students coming in, you'll need to complete a free online application. That free online application will be on the website, our landing page for cybersecurity. You'll be able to click on it. When it comes to your official transcripts from your university or college, we'll need the official transcripts sent through Parchment, Clearinghouse, or from the university itself. It cannot come from a student. And if it does, it has to be sealed in a sealed envelope coming to us. That then goes into being sent to the registrar office to confirm it. The next thing you'll need to do is essay of at least 500 words, well, 250 words, excuse me. I always say, and that's in half a page. And I know the program director, he loves reading this stuff because he gets to know who you are and what is your goal when it comes to what is important to you, Why is the cybersecurity important to your personal and professional goals? That helps him as your academic advisor to understand the pathway that you tend to want to take with cybersecurity, not only with me advocating when I have your packet. Then we like to have come in for our students at least 2 professional or academic recommendation forms, which are able to be downloaded, and you can find that on the website or contact me and I'll definitely send that directly to you. With that, you just have it completed and send that back, and that goes into your packet. The last thing we'll need is an updated resume. That updated resume, we also have a program here on campus called Career Services. You'll have access to that as a grad student for the rest of your life as far as the Bay Path University. So 10 years or 5 years from now, you'll be able to go in, utilize this luxury of having it on campus to update your resume, your cover letter. And they've also picked up some helpful information from the program director and working with him to make sure his students are all set properly when they go out into the industry. So typically when we end, we usually have students that always have questions. So when we're looking at it, you can definitely contact both of us. Professor O'Brien is always able to be accessible through email if you have more probing questions about the cybersecurity program. If you're more interested in learning the admissions process, please do not hesitate to contact me or email me and I will be happy to help you. When we're looking at it as far as questions, one of the questions that I have from students when I meet with them is, do I have to have a background in cybersecurity in order to go into this master's program?
No is the answer, definitely not. So it's really important to me that we're actually able to bring in folks from a variety of different disciplines, right?
Mhm.
It's actually an area that I have a lot of expertise in generally. You know, I consider myself an educator first and foremost, and I've educated a lot of folks across disciplines from legal to, you know, law enforcement to accountants and all these kinds of fields. And brought them into the fold, so to speak, in cybersecurity. So we work with you on that. We want to make sure that we have so many different perspectives in the field, and it's something BayPath I think does better than anybody else.
And typically, when you're looking at it in the learning platform, students will ask, are there modules within the cyber program? Do they have computer lab work? What's going on in Canvas? Do they have to download different things? What usually is the typical setup for a student?
Sure. So it varies class to class. The foundational sort of core classes are more about learning the basics. So we have videos embedded, of course, but there's readings and, you know, some PDF textbooks, that sort of thing to read. I try to make sure we always have some live, like recent articles and events in there. But the stuff about incident response, network security, cloud computing, we actually have virtual lab environments you can log to. So we basically link out with partners. We're partnered with Cyber Trust Massachusetts and Mass Cyber, and we have access to these virtual, basically fake attack environments, right? So you can go in there and safely, you know, look at a cyber event, or you can play around with the networking without worrying about breaking your own computer. Where we need to, I will say, we walk people through installing on their own machine, but generally speaking, everything we do is going to be in a virtual environment online, and it's a lot of fun, frankly. So.
Okay, that's awesome. Typically, what would you say a study session for a student when they're coming in? Now, if they don't have a background in computer information or IT of any sort, coming in, would you suggest they start with one class starting or 2 classes per session, and which is a full-time status?
Yeah, so generally speaking, I think if you're worried, if you really don't have a technical background at all, like you've not even really used Excel or something like that very much, you know, spreadsheets or those kinds of things, it might be best for you to have one class. I don't ever want to discourage people, from being ambitious, but it's really important, obviously, that you succeed in the program, right? We want to make sure you go through and you get the degree, of course. So we want to try to work with you on that. The foundational stuff that we teach from the basics are, networking, what a computer network actually is, for example. We do actually start at that level, but we ramp it up pretty quickly. So I will say, yeah, if you are worried, maybe it does make sense just to do one class. And I think, we do have a number of students who do programs simultaneously, and when that occurs, we definitely say, hey, make sure you're not overloading yourself, and maybe one class makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So typically, how long do you think for a typical class? How many hours is it? 10 to 20 hours in a school week that they would do for those 8 weeks each week?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would split the difference and say maybe like 15-ish. It's
Right.
definitely not 10. So it's not something, the readings alone sometimes can be that long depending on the course. If it's emerging cyber threats, for example, which is one of the courses, and it's a lot of really like topical news stuff, it's not really heavy reading. But if it's your first foundations of cybersecurity, yeah, you might spend somewhere between 6 or 7 hours of just reading. We need to make sure you go through that stuff. And yeah, you should set aside, I think, somewhere between 15 and 20. We always want to see more, but we realize people are busy, so.
Yeah. And another question students ask, can I contact my professors if I have issues? Do they have office hours or anything of that sort?
Yeah, so I encourage all of our professors to set out some sort of set times for office hours. If not, they make sure they're very receptive and will do these kinds of one-on-one conversations. I also am the advisor for the program, so you can reach out to me as well, and I've done one-on-one sessions. We have situations, of course, where folks start to fall behind and stay very cognizant of that. And then, maybe at the midpoint of the semester, we say, hey, we've noticed that you're falling behind in these areas. Can we come up with a plan here to make sure that you don't fall any further behind and that you can finish? So we do stay very hands-on with all of that. And I definitely, in the past few months, I've got to know a lot of the students personally. What's really exciting about it is seeing someone come in who doesn't really have a cyber background, and then they're just so excited and so big on cybersecurity by the end of the program that I'm actually learning stuff from them. So they've been very fun sessions, and I'd say, some of those folks now have come back to teach in the program as well, which is great.
All right, and I have one last question. That last question is, do they have to do an internship or any hands-on stuff in the industry before getting the job
Yeah,
through
so
BayCap or anything?
you don't need an internship or hands-on experience. Of course, if you have that, we take that into consideration, and we're happy to see that. But don't feel like you have to go off and do some free volunteer thing for some company over the summer before you can even apply. That's ridiculous. What we do try to do for you is set you up in the best possible way for internships. And one of the things about our relationships with these other cyber groups, especially in Massachusetts, is that we do have some pathways to try to get placement there. Whether or not you go into a certain industry, right, that's going to be up to you. But we want to make sure whatever your path is, we are preparing you the best possible way. So we can, of course, never promise placement anywhere, but we do our best to make sure that it happens.
Definitely. I know the students love it and they talk about how much cybersecurity is so fun. So I do appreciate the information that you're giving. And like I said, we are open to talk to anyone that needs to reach out to us. If you have any questions, contact me directly or email us, or you can use the graduate email address and email us, and it'll still get to me and I'll be able to help you with with applying to cybersecurity and then going over the program with you as well. If it's a question I don't know, I definitely will direct you to the program director, and he is phenomenal about working with you guys and getting you all set. One more question. When a student is looking to go for certifications, do we have anything? Because that's typically a question I'm always asked. Although we don't provide the certification testing, by the time they're done, will they be equipped to go and sit for these exams if they want?
Yeah, so this is obviously a big deal in the IT industry in general, right? You do a program, you learn about the thing, but then you have to take all these certification tests, right? We focus on curriculum that is roughly correlated with the major exams in cybersecurity. So we're looking at somewhere between 3 and 5 different exams, depending on what area you go into. You don't have to end up with 5 certificates to be in cyber. However, if you do go for one of those certs, we want to make sure that we can get you on that pathway. So we do try very hard to make sure we're closely aligned with the expectations of those exams. The other thing we have is we have tertiary resources. I've been focusing a lot, for example, on making sure that there are outside courses that we can give you access to for specifically doing certification study in these areas. And we have industry experts as well that we can put you in touch with. There were a couple students this past semester that I made sure for the CISSP, I put them in touch with folks who not only had it, I have it as well, but not only had it, but who are experts in training others. So we try to make those connections where we can, but also just realize the cool thing about, I'd say the IT field in general, but definitely cybersecurity, is that if you can show a strong portfolio of the things that you've accomplished, right, which our classes definitely help you to do, then those accomplishments speak very strongly for you. Everything's not just about a bunch of acronyms on a piece of paper. And we want to make sure that you're positioned to have the knowledge. And then if you want to do the certs, a lot of people do them after they already have a job. And often your job will pay for them. So that's great.
Definitely. Well, Professor O'Brien, I truly thank you for your time and the knowledge that you brought to this webinar for us to get out. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you for meeting with me today to go over the Cyber Masters program.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much.